Hello. I wanted to do a video that I've been thinking about doing for a while. I play Destiny 2 quite a bit. Um, in fact, it was my most played game last year. And I bought Lightfall and played Lightfall, like a lot of members of the community did, and was left wanting. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I do not hate Destiny 2 Lightfall. I don't think it's bottom of the barrel bad. I think that it is definitely not within the ballpark of the Witch Queen, which was easily the best Destiny expansion that there's ever been. I don't think it was even as good as Beyond Light. I think it was better than Shadowkeep. I despised Shadowkeep. I hated it. I thought it was boring. Um, but Lightfall had issues, and it left the community wanting. And I've spent a long time thinking about how could it have been fixed. And so this is going to be just my thoughts on how Lightfall could have been fixed. The problem with Lightfall, I think more than anything, is that it has the bones necessary for a great story. It had interesting characters. It had a good setting. It had all of the necessary build-up. It had everything that was necessary for that expansion to have a phenomenal story and set us up for the final shape. Where Lightfall struggles is the writing. The writing in Lightfall really, really took a nosedive. And again, it's frustrating because I played the campaign through 3 times. I'm a Hunter main, so I played it on my Hunter with my brother. I played it on a Titan, and then I played it on a Warlock. Having played the campaign 3 times, I can see what the story could have been, and what blows my mind is I don't see how the writers weren't able to write it that way. Even if they weren't able to get, new scenes done and edit and CGI'd and voice acted, with a little bit of writing, a little bit of character dialogue, in-game dialogue, so many of the issues with Lightfall could have been fixed. And it would have at least been better than it was at launch and received better. So what are some examples? Well, the veil, right? The biggest issue that people had with Lightfall after it came out is that we didn't know what the veil was, right? It opens up with, after the Witness's attack on the Traveler, Osiris saying that they have to follow Callus's fleet to Neomuna because that's where the veil is at. So you follow him to the veil. It's mentioned a couple of other times in the campaign by Keitel, I believe at least once, by Osiris again. The Witness mentions it, Callus mentions it, but it's never explained. There's never a moment where someone explains what the veil is. And you destroy it, actually, in I believe you destroy. No, you destroy the key mast, I believe it's called, or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you destroy a component, a critical component to the Witness's plan, supposedly. But throughout the campaign, the veil is mentioned and never explained. That was a sore spot for people. Again, that could have been something where, with a couple of extra lines of dialogue, you could have had a moment where one character explains what the veil is and why it's so important to get there. Now, the justification you can give for not having that explanation is that if the Witness wants it, obviously we need to get it first. And I think Bungie was kind of leaning on that as their workaround. Like, we're not going to explain what it is. All you need to know as the player is that if they want it, we need to have it before they do. And if we can't get it, we need to destroy it so they can't use it. But a couple of lines of dialogue could have fixed that. And now you have an explanation for the veil, which was the biggest sore point for people. What else do we got in there? The emphasis on Strand, I actually thought was interesting. I think it was kind of a sore point for people, though, where the loadout system came out, and then there were moments in the campaign where you just couldn't use your abilities at all. So if you were crutching on a weapon and an ability combo for a specific build that got shot. Couldn't do that. Um, I think Strand itself went very well. They handled that very well. The emphasis on it was kind of odd. Um, I also find it very strange that the witness never mentions what's going on, right? Like, the witness talks to Callus a couple of times, but at no point in the game did the witness ever mention us, like what we were doing. And that was a sore spot for some players too, because it kind of felt disjointed. It felt like the witness wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. I have a theory about that. I'll get to that in a minute. Strand was leaned into a little bit heavily, but overall I think that was handled pretty well. Callus and the witness. I think that Callus and the witness, their interactions were actually handled pretty well. I don't know there were a lot of people who had complaints about that. Callus's characterization was done very well. He's very callous. The witness was also done very well. Their moments of interaction are good. Callus, the way that he's handled people, had a problem with that, and I understand to a point, because Callus was kind of hyped up as somebody who might be a really good raid boss, somebody that would be a very challenging fight. I actually think, though, that the writing in Lightfall actually betrays Callus in a lot of ways. Not that he's written poorly, but it sort of betrays what he is. In Lightfall, Callus is not meant to succeed. Right? Having played the campaign through 3 times, I can see exactly what Bungie was trying to do. And this is a sore spot for people, because it's not really written into the game in a way that, if you're not looking to make the connections, you won't be able to make them, right? It has to be like, either you're really plugged into the lore and you've played a bunch of these expansions and you know how this stuff kind of works, or you have no idea and it just sort of flies right over your head. The witness has taken control of the ghosts before. They did it in Shadowkeep, right? Where the witness was able to possess the ghost and talk through the ghost. In Lightfall, the witness sends Callus to Niamuna to secure the veil and the key mast. I think that's what it's called. And at one point in the campaign, our ghost is taken over by the witness, and we are shown an image, a video essentially, of Callus talking to the witness. We can't hear what the witness is saying. Oh yeah, I think we can. And we can hear Callus, and they're having a dialogue, and we're just listening to it. Now, important to keep in mind here that this is at a critical point in the campaign where they're talking about securing the veil, okay, or the key. Again, I don't remember exactly what's going on. I believe it's securing the key. Now, here's the thing that's really important about this, right? The ghost is taken over by the witness in that moment. That's really critical to keep in mind. Why? Because the witness, all along, knew Callus was going to fail. Callus was never meant to succeed. He was always disposable, right? There are 2 possible outcomes. Callus is successful, and the witness gets what he wants. Callus fails, and the witness just uses us to get what he wants, right? Either Callus beats us and secures it, or we beat Callus. But if the witness can usher Callus into a very specific position for that final altercation, like it did at the end, it doesn't matter. If the final showdown takes place at the Veil, the witness can make the connection through the ghost. Doesn't matter if Callus wins or not. Callus is completely disposable. If you play it again, you can see that theme underlying a lot of what happens in the story. The witness's disregard for Callus. Callus is very haughty. He's very him. The witness is definitely not on board with any of that. But the witness is always treating him like he's disposable, right? Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant. I still get what I want. So Callus being killed in the campaign and not as a raid boss, I think actually works really well with the way that the story is handled. Callus is not that important. At the end of the day, he was hyped up to be something that he just wasn't. He was always just blunder. He was always just somebody who talked a big game, but he couldn't back it up. He didn't have the ability to do that. He was an outcast emperor who was dying, who was chosen as a last resort by the witness because we've beaten Oryx, one of the most powerful beings in the universe. We'd beaten Savathun at that point, one of the most powerful beings in the universe. We'd beaten Rolk, the first disciple of the Witness. The Witness makes Callus. Nezarec at this point is not alive. Again. So Callus being disposable makes sense. But it wasn't written very well. There wasn't this moment where you got this impression from the Witness or from musings by the characters in the game that Callus was always disposable. He was just a means to an end. If he succeeds, great. If he fails, great. Because if he fails, then that would mean we killed him. That would mean that so long as the Witness is able to play both sides to get us into the exact spot at the exact time, that works. And even if not, let's assume Callus dies somewhere else in the campaign and not there at the Veil. The Guardians are still going to push for the Veil. The moment a Guardian gets close enough with their ghost, the Witness still gets what he wants. Callus is completely disposable. It just wasn't written very well. So people who wanted him to be more than that were disappointed. And then the way that it starts off with the firefight at Earth, and then it ends at the same place. To me, that just didn't make any sense. There was no sense of time progression. There was no sense that time had moved at all. It starts with Zavala, Mara, Ikora, Eris, and I don't remember who the other person is, in the helm, and the emergency blast doors slide down and seal them in. And it ends with those doors opening as the Witness makes its connection to the Traveler and goes inside. So the campaign took place over the course of an hour and a half, a couple of hours. The firefight was over at that point. It wasn't still going on. How long were they locked in there? Writing. They needed more writing. One more scene would have fixed that. One scene where they left the helm. It opened and they got out. They said, okay, we need to go back and figure out what's going on and what our next move is going to be. That would have been fine. Or hell, even a scene if they would have said that the doors were jammed. From inside the helm, all of them around that main table there, all these heavy hitters within the Destiny lore. The window is jammed, they can't get it to open, but they're brainstorming. Something to add to this concept that time has passed. It just didn't happen. Lightfall had everything that it needed to be great, and they just didn't do good with the writing.